Gaia Dan, thank you so much for coming on the Empire Files. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you. I'm really excited about the opportunity to tell everybody what happens and happens all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're an anti-Zionist Israeli based in Haifa. Why don't you walk us through what happened to you and other activists when you tried to organize a screening of our film, Gaza Fights for Freedom?
Me and my friends, every once in a while, we're doing this public screening of all kinds of political films and movies. Um, we decided Gaza Fights for Freedom for the obvious reasons, because it's very relatable to what is happening right now in Gaza and to what happened on 7th of October and the fights for the liberation of Palestine. And we know we knew from the beginning that it's gonna be different from the other screening, that it's gonna be more dangerous, a bit more politically loaded, that we will need to be a bit more discreet. But we wanted to do that anyway. So we printed posters for the event, and they were hung, like they were across the city. And I think it was 1 day, 2 days after the posters were spread across the city that harassment began to arrive to one of the spokespeople that were supposed to be in the event. But she began to get these weird phone calls from the police and weird phone calls from citizens. That some of them are known to be linked to various of right-wing organizations that are known to hunt down and prosecute activists. And but we managed to keep things pretty calm until Saturday, 1 day before the planned screening. That I think it was around 9:30 p.m. that I began to receive phone calls from my parents. Even before I spoke to them, I knew that the police um, came to their house. I knew that they raided their house because they already did that. And I can't say that I didn't expect that to happen. I knew that something like that will happen. Police told them all kind of very obscure things about me. They told them that the Secret Service is after me. They told them that I'm brainwashed, that I'm around the dangerous people, that I'm ruining my life. They told them that if the Secret Service will get to me and I will get interrogated by the Secret Service, that I will leave a different person and that it will scar me for life. They even show them, they brought the iPad with them, and they show them um documents and pictures from protests that I was involved in. Um Protests that were completely legal, that I didn't do anything dangerous in them, to like give them the sense that they're really after me, that they really know what I am and what am I doing. I think they know where I live. Yeah, they're not stupid. They know where I live. They know that I don't live with my parents for several years now. They came there for this one shot that maybe I will be there, and mostly for intimidating me, the organizers of the event, and mostly my parents, into pressure me to cancel the event.
And they explicitly said that. They said your daughter's planning this event. Did
They
they?
didn't
I mean, what
said
what are exactly are the
so.
allegations? I mean, what exactly are the allegations here? Why can't you organize a film screening?
Oh, all right. So I'll start with saying that there's no real law here in the so-called Israel state against political movies. There's no such legality for Gaza Fights for Freedom. Um, so they didn't said anything of the event or about the film. They hinted that I'm involved with dangerous things. They didn't said your daughter is planning a screening of a political movie about the Palestinian resistance. They just said that they're
Hmm.
worried because of the things that they do. They hinted,
Right.
um, but it was pretty much obvious for all of the people that were involved, including the police, of course, that it was because of the film, because of the movie. Last time that it happened, it was in January. So they raided my parents' house after a speech that I gave in a protest.
Well, I mean, it's fascinating because you have journalists in the UK being raided for just the police are explicitly telling them supporting terrorism, basically encouraging terrorism, inciting support for terrorism. So I'm actually surprised that the Israeli authorities are not just saying this is what you are doing by just simply protesting.
Um, they do that for Palestinian citizens. For Jewish citizens,
Hmm.
they we have a few higher levels of privilege, so they will never. It's very rare cases that they will accuse us for incitement for terrorism. It's usually incitement to violence, not terrorism, which is a lower
Hmm.
level of crime.
I mean, it is really intense because we know how sophisticated the surveillance technology is,
Yeah.
Gaia, and I can't imagine, just that awareness, having that in the background, knowing that, just how invasive that can be to anyone who is daring to question what your government is doing. I want to ask you just about this concept of Israel being the only democracy in the Middle East, because ever since October 7th, I mean, it does seem like there's an increasingly fascist police state repression internally going on, whether it's going after people who are organizing film screenings like you and your friends, or people who are just simply posting grievances or critiques on social media. Can you speak to that crackdown that you've not only experienced firsthand, but just kind of witnessed broadly?
But first, my personal beliefs about the term of democracy is that it doesn't exist in the first place. Certainly not in here in Israel in occupied Palestine. The only people that this lie is working on them are the Israeli citizens themselves. Because I think that most people around the world already realize, already made the connection that it's very hard to be a democracy while simultaneously committing a genocide and ethnic cleansing in Gaza or in the West Bank. And it's not even how they oppress us freedom of speech and the freedom to protest here in 48 borders. I'm not even speaking about it. It's just impossible um, to be a democracy while also wiping out um, people for the sake of just wiping them out, so they won't be a threat to the existence of some sort of territory. It's not new that Israel is oppressing the freedom of speech and the freedom of protest all over, not only the 48 borders, also in the 67 territories, also in the West Bank. Every protest there is being oppressed by the military heavily, much more heavily than here, with live ammunition against the protests. Most of them are Palestinians. How can you say that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, or like it likes to present itself as the villa in the jungle? That's why they stay here a lot of time.
Hmm.
That Israel is a villa and the rest of the Middle East is a jungle. Um, while I can't, while I fear that after this interview, the police will again raid my house. It's not a democracy. It's not freedom of speech. It's bullshit. They're lying to themselves. They're lying to the citizens of Israel that believe in it. They're lying to the rest of the world. And my hope is that the rest of the world will open their eyes and will not buy all these lies that they're trying to sell to people. It's not a democracy if I can't even screen a movie.
Are people scared to voice their opinion on social media? I mean, are you scared to go to protests? And not just because of the police forces, but because of your fellow Israeli citizens. I mean, it does seem very intense to go out there and be vulnerable as an anti-Zionist.
I think we need to make first distinguish between Jewish Israeli citizens or in between Palestinians that have Israeli passports. We're not having the same rights here. And my rights are different from their rights. It's not the same. Um, so I go to protest very knowingly that I use my Jewish privilege to protest, because I know that if I was a Palestinian that goes to this protest, not only that I will be arrested for a longer time, or that I will be beaten for in much harsher way, but I will also be accused of a much harder accusation. Um, and about freedom of speech in social medias, there were countless of cases since 7th of October in which Palestinians lost their jobs or were kicked out of their universities because of things that they posted online, no matter how generic they were. Because Israel doesn't see Palestinian people as people. They see them, first thing, as a threat. And a threat, you need to neutralize it. You need to wipe it in every means necessary. So they can't do the genocide that they do to Palestinians in Gaza here in the 48 territories, because they're blending with the Jewish community, with the Jewish people. So they do it in a lower levels. They scare them. They arrest them for 5 months because they were in a protest. And I'm telling you this example because it happened more than one time, more than twice, that Palestinians were in jail for several months because they were in protest. So yeah, when I come to a protest, I come not completely confident. I can't tell you that I'm not scared. I am scared because the police are there always. They're always waiting for us, and they're always like, well, we're always like 10 protesters, and you can expect like 30 police officers there. And I'm not scared because I think I might get arrested for 5 months. It's not my reality. I don't live the same reality as Palestinian citizens. I'm scared because I don't want I don't want to get punched in the face from a police officer, which is already a thing that happened to me 2 months ago. My level of threats are different than the threats of Palestinian people here.
I mean, but it still is a testament to your bravery for going out there, not just because of the police, guy. I mean, we know how fascist a lot of Israelis are, and
Yeah.
they could attack you as well.
And they tried a lot of times. Listen, if you're gonna be an anti-Zionist and you're living here in the Zionist state, that you can't expect, sadly, yeah, to for people not to harass and threat you and call you names on the streets or on your Instagram. Not twice. So many times people are sending me threats, telling me they know where I live, that I needed to die on the 7th of October, that they wish that I was raped. I That's the reality here. That's the reality of being an anti-Zionist in a Zionist state, with majority of that are Zionists. But when I come to the street, when I come to a public protest, I I'm also scared from the civilians, because I know how brutal and violent they can be, and I know that the police, if they'll see me getting beaten from citizens, they won't do shit about that. They will not care at all.
Mhm.
And I want to tell you about this protest that I was in 6 months ago.
Mhm.
It was a Palestinian-led protest here in Haifa. Um, so we were on the sidewalk protesting. On the other sidewalk, there was a counter protest. of Zionists against us. So while the police are trying to beginning to arrest us and beat us and um, make us run across the streets, the counter protest of the Zionists, I will always remember that they screamed at us, look how those rats are running, look at these rats are running, and then they cheered the police while they beat us up. And like I thought this
Awful.
comparison to rats as we made a full circle of once the Jewish were compared to rats, and now the Jewish are comparing other people to rats. Um, and I think it's so ironic that even though the Jewish state supposedly um, existing to oppose anti-Semitism and so the Nazism will never happen again, but it's a direct continuation of the Nazi ideology, but in a different way.
What was the indoctrination like for you growing up, and how did you break out of that?
I didn't have much questions about this place or about why do we have these wars when I grew up. I didn't have this question. I didn't have this curiosity. Everything they taught us at school or at home, I 100% believed in it. From the minute you're out in the open of the world, since in the minute you're being born and you're a baby, you're being y- your parents are being questioned, and then you're being questioned about where you want to be in the military. Do you want to be a soldier? Do you want to be a soldier, right? Because that's the
Hmm.
only way that your parents are gonna be proud of you, according to the Zionism. You need to be a soldier. You need to contribute to Israel. You need to show yourself as a citizen. Since the minute you're born, since the minute you'll be gone, to you'll be dead, you'll be asked what you did in the military. So I joined the military in 2018. And after a year and 4 months, I realized I was pretty shooken up to my core. I didn't realize what happened to me in the military. Everything that I've been through there was so traumatic to me. The people that I met, so openly racist um, towards each other, towards Palestinians, um, that I began to do that independent research to meet people for the first time at the age of 19. I actually met a Palestinian person. And those things, all those things that I've been through after the military, have brought me to be the person that I am today. But I can't summarize all of it right now because it will take hours. But I will just say that it was a hard and long journey because it's a lot of time feels like breaking away from this cell, from everything that is comforting.
Right. So it wasn't like one moment. It wasn't
No,
one radicalizing moment. It was a journey
it was a
and a lot of
yes,
unpacking
yes.
this propaganda. And was that so? You said that was the first time you actually sought out a Palestinian to befriend, to get to know? I mean, what about all the Palestinians who have Israeli citizenship?
So it's a great question. All right, I lived in a liberal Zionist household, but they didn't believe. When I say liberal Zionists, I mean like they're Zionists, but in a softer way. They're not openly racist. They hid it in nice words. Um, and I went to a regular school, public schools, which most of them are Jewish, some are Druze. I didn't met them in school. I didn't met them in all these classes that I took. They weren't parts of my view growing up till the age of 19, because that's the system that Zionists want. That's what they're rooting for. There wasn't. So I met some, of course, Palestinians. I don't know, in the supermarkets. But when they're working or when I'm working, but there was no real conversation. There was no real touch or openness. There was nothing in it. We lived in a completely two different roles from one another. And I didn't ask any questions about that because that's what I knew and that's what I thought was right. I didn't saw anything wrong with it. Um, and when I'm looking back at it, I am so scared for the children, the Jewish children here. I got out of this Zionist cult by, I don't know, luck, maybe. I can't find the words to say it.
Well,
It's maybe luck.
as we know, it's a lot of Israelis say you're forbidden to go into the West Bank. There's giant red signs warning you could be killed.
Yeah,
You're entering at your own risk. I mean, it really is kind of a terrifying notion to even integrate and enter into somewhere like Ramallah, which is just like such an incredible place for everyone to go visit.
that's true. There are some parts in the West Bank that you can come, but most of the Israelis that go to the West Bank, they're not going there to meet Palestinians or to speak to them or to share experiences or to hear their stories. No, they come there because they want to walk in the nature. They have their incredible nature. Most of the Israeli don't really care about the Palestinians in the West Bank or in Gaza or in 48 territories. So I think that most of the Israelis can live their entire lives while most of the Palestinians that they meet is the cashier in the supermarket. And that's the Zionist society for you.
Hmm.
That's what Zionist states want. If there was a collusion, if there was um, any kind of coexistence, it will disrupt and shake the Zionist narrative. It's not something that Israel pushes for. That Jewish will meet Palestinians, because then maybe it will happen what happened to me, and they realize that how dangerous the Zionist ideology is.
So all the mass rallies that we're seeing in the streets against Netanyahu, I mean, for us, the Western media here is telling us that there's widespread opposition to Netanyahu's policies, by extension, this war. Is that a correct reflection on the ground? I mean, can you explain more about that movement versus the movement that you're a part of?
One of my fears is that people will see the major protest that's going on under Netanyahu, and they'll think to themselves that all of those people are against the genocide or against Zionism. The majority of them are Zionists. The only reason that they're protesting against Netanyahu or Ben Gvir is because they're harming themselves, and it puts them and their Jewish privilege in risk. It's because it makes them look bad to the world, because it harms them in one way or another. They don't care about Palestinians. Yes, no, you're right. They are major, they're big, they're against Netanyahu, but they're not against Zionism. So it will not be a Netanyahu, it will be some kind of other Zionists that will come after him. It doesn't matter. Netanyahu
Is
did
it
not
even against
invent
the war? I mean,
Zionism.
is it just about the hostages? Is it about corruption? It just seems like it's been going on for so long. It's kind of, I mean, it seems like it was about corruption and then it was about the hostages, but it's definitely not about the genocide
No,
or
it's
the
not.
ethnic cleansing that's going on.
It's a bundle of a lot of things. It's a mashup of many things that they want to happen. The release of the hostages, that Netanyahu will be replaced because of corruption, because they don't want the judicial reform will happen. It started on 2022, and it begins now in a different kind of way. Mostly, I think, because of the hostages, but again, many reasons to many people to walk up the streets. Almost none of them are because of the genocide. Most of the people there are completely blind to the reality the Palestinian live in. And I think it's important me to clarify that, because it's not like that, like in some other part of the world, that anti-Zionists are the silent majority and here we are rising to the streets in the masses. No, we are few hundred here in Israel, anti-Zionist, at least. We are not a Zion majority. We're the minority of the minority of the. We're a very, very small movement. And I want to clarify that. All of those people that you see on the mainstream media all over the world that are against Netanyahu, you're correct. They are against Netanyahu. But it means nothing. Absolutely nothing. They don't need to be against Netanyahu. Netanyahu is not the root of all evil. Netanyahu didn't invent the Zionism. They don't realize what's the cause of all this harm, which is Zionism. They will never admit it. You see it for yourself. All those protests are full with Israeli flags. They will sell the hostages
Yeah, good
for
point.
the Israeli flags. They don't care enough about the hostages as much as they care for the precious Jewish state.
But I remember my friend who would embed himself in kind of these fascist strongholds of chanting death to the leftists in places like Tel Aviv. And if you didn't come wearing an Israeli flag, like, you were outed. And I think just by virtue of the fact that he wasn't holding an Israeli flag, someone was just like,
No,
where's your fucking flag? And then, like, tried to jump him. It was like, it was such a scary story that he retold about. If you don't show up with the
you're
flag, it's like
betraying
you
the
kind
cause.
of, people
Yeah,
like think it's weird.
because you're betraying the cause. Because what you're not supporting the state in this protest of supporting the state. What are you doing here? You are anti-Semitic. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, it's like unnecessarily wielding patriotism when you're protesting the
Yeah,
government seems
yeah.
odd.
It's because you can't. There's no such thing. You can't. Patriotism is rooted here in the hearts and minds of people. Because if you won't show to a protest with an Israeli flag, then maybe some other people who are against you will say, look, they're not even supporting the country. They're one of those anti-Semitic people that are protesting against the country. They are against the Jewish state. So people have to bring Israeli flags with them. They have to prove it to themselves and to other people too, that they are loyal to the country, that they are much more patriots than other people. We care so much about this country that we protest for it. That's one of the things that people say here in the protest against the judicial reform or for the hostage release deal. People will keep saying on stages or in chants that they do this for the country because they care so much for the Zionist country that they have to protest against something or for something. It's the state and the person became one. That's why it's a cult.
Well, it's a good point, and I think you just answered my next question, which is how marginalized is anti-Zionism within 48? Because it seems like, liberal Zionism is obviously much more palatable, but to be anti-Zionist and reject Zionism fundamentally must be a very tough ideology to embrace, to position yourself as, and it must be very hard to organize under that banner, Gaia.
You're alone most of your time with your thoughts or maybe physically because you can't find other people that think like you and you don't want to be friends with Zionists because all of the Zionist friends that you made along the years turned out to be genocidal, and so you're alone. It's a very lonely position here to be anti-Zionists. So community is very, very important. That's why you were doing things like movie screening. Movie screening is not the ultimate act of resistance in the case of genocide. But in this case, it was because of the police sanctions against it. And also because here we're alone. We're alone in so much hatred and bigotry. And we need this community to not lose our senses. That everyone around us are completely genocidal maniacs. Everyone around you. And I don't mean it's, no, metaphorically. It's not metaphorically. It's literally everybody. It will be your family. It will be your teachers. It will be your colleagues. Everyone around you. Soil alone. Even if we will gather all of those anti-Zionists together from Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or Haifa or whatever, it will not be more than, I don't know, 500. We're alone here.
I can't even imagine. I cannot imagine. Back in 2016, I was in the West Bank and I was there for several weeks. I stepped foot in Jerusalem for a couple hours and just did these Vox Pop man on the street interviews. And I was really taken aback by how openly genocidal everyone that I talked to was, endorsing ethnic cleansing, endorsing dropping nukes, or just carpet bombing
Eddie, it's the
Arabs.
norm
And I was so
here.
alarmed because it's like, dude, you guys are talking on camera to a Western journalist unabashedly. But then, of course, the reaction to that, Gaia, from a lot of Israelis, from a lot of Zionists, was you just cherry pick these people. How dare
Yeah,
you
of
try to paint
course.
with a broad brush or generalize Israeli society as genocidal and fascist? You just elucidated that that is the mainstream
That is the
belief.
main.
I
That's
mean,
what they teach you at school in the first grade already. That's what they see on the news every day. It's Zionist propaganda that says that we need to kill Palestinians. It's not just few bad apples. No, that's what it is here. That's the majority here. So no, and I think that all of those people that are like, no, you're only showing the extreme of the extreme. You only show what's comforting for you, what's right with the ideology. They're also genocidal, just in a more polite way. They just hide it because they know it doesn't look good to the world because it's harming Israeli intentions. Because Israel, most of its um, power and strength is from telling the world that we're actually the good guys here. We're not the bad here. They're the bad. Look what they did on
I
the
mean
7th of
that's
October.
what's so right. I mean that's what's so crazy is it's like Zionism fundamentally it's a colonizing ideology. It is genocidal in practice because it's the expulsion of native
Yeah.
inhabitants in order to maintain this artificial majority of Israeli Jews. But it does seem like it's gotten into a turbocharged mode after October
Yeah.
7th. I mean, I'm just speaking as someone who is witnessing this unfold. I mean, I lived through 9/11, so I witnessed before and after that reptile brain became activated, and I've never seen Islamophobia take root like it did on 9/12, and just it's continued. But how did it change? I mean, did it really ratchet up? Did kind of the mask slip from a lot of people that did call themselves maybe progressives or identified as liberal Zionists, but still humanized the Palestinians? I mean, what did you witness after October 7th?
I believe what I saw is that people that were uh, racists in the closets are now very openly racists because they're more allowed to do that because it's now they have a reason they can be racist. And about this movement of liberals or progressive that says a lot of time that we were once people of peace, but after the 7th of October, now we don't believe in peace. So you never actually believed in peace because you don't actually realize why the 7th of October happened. So just said that you saw Palestinians as lesser people than you. Just say that. It's okay. Say that. Here, it's okay. It's fine. Here, it's the norm. Don't hide behind those progressive ideas. Here, it's very, very fine and very, very open to racism ideologies. So maybe I see slightly change in aggression, but the racism is exactly the same racism. Zionism has not changed. Unexpectedly became something violent. No, I don't see much changed, sadly.
Right. I mean, back in 2018, when the Great March of Return was going on, already the polling had shown, the vast majority of people had supported the open fire policy as well as the subsequent bombing campaigns in Gaza. So when you look at polling today, yeah, less than 2% of Israeli Jews think that Israel has used too much firepower in Gaza. It's a shocking statistic, but for people who've been paying attention, not that surprising.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the people here are really, really okay with Palestinians or even living near Palestinians as much as they'll tell you. But not when Palestinians are speaking their mind for their rights or act in any sort of act of resistance. So a lot of those also those people, those progressive people that were like, once I believed in peace, but now I'm not, are one of those. They're the same kind of people that were like, we were okay with Palestinians as long as they don't resist the occupation. We're okay with Palestinians as long as they don't interfere with my Jewish superiority.
Hmm. Where do you go from here? Because I mean, for us, and we're in the imperial core. I'm in the United States of America. I'm an American citizen. I wish that I could organize BDS against my country because it's the one subsidizing and overseeing all of these horrors. But what do you do as an anti-Zionist Israeli living there? I mean, how do you build this movement when you know what odds are stacked against you internally?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't see any kind of scenario where we can actually build um, um, a movement here, an anti-Zionist real movement, because we're not enough people, and the odds are very stacked against us. It's just not realistic to expect that thing to happen. What I want to do and what I am doing is to build as much as possible a community of anti-Zionists. So one, that we will not feel alone, that we will not feel hopeless, that we will not feel like we're out of our mind and that everybody else are okay and maybe we're the ones who are okay. No, that's why we need a community. And what we will do is a small act of resistance, like protests or movies that makes the establish the make the institutions, the Zionist institutions, the police, the fascist organizations, the state itself to tremble in fear that it will actually happen. To try to shake as much as possible the Zionist narrative, no matter if it's from upsetting people so much that they wish me to get killed via Instagram DMs or by actual just public protest with signs for the liberation of Palestine. All of these things are very, very important to the breaking of the Zionist narrative. That even if we will not impact the entirety of the citizens, the Jewish citizens that live here, that maybe we can reach out to some of them and make them
Mhm.
angry at us, and by that maybe and be angry at the states themselves, even if they'll
Mhm.
make 1+1 and realize that they've been lied to their entire life and that the Zionist ideology is in fact um, a toxic ideology.
And what about a message or statement to the rest of the world? I mean, what is your message or call for us who are just witnessing this helplessly?
I am a strong supporter of the boycott method, but I don't think that only boycotting Israel and Israeli supply chains and its Israeli weapon companies is it will do enough of enough of damage. I want people to start to boycott also Israeli allies like the United States, like the United Kingdom, like France, for instance. I want people to realize that this thing is bigger than just the state of Israel themselves itself. It's something international that many countries are complicit in this ongoing genocide. It is ongoing occupation. I want people to act not only against my state, which is by chance it is the Israeli Jewish state. I want people to also act against their own state for being complicit in that, from being complicit in a genocide and ethnic cleansing, of being complicit in the police raiding my parents' house. I want people to act to see the fall of imperialism and European and American colonialism in the Middle East. As we can see, that Israel is a branch of it. I want people to keep fighting.
Thank you so much. We will keep fighting. Gaia Dan, I'm so honored that you risked so much to show our film and that you're continuing to put it all on the line to galvanize anti-Zionists, to build this movement, and to speak out. It means so much to me, and I know so many other people. Thank you again, and please keep me posted because you're risking also a lot to even do this interview. Keep me posted on how we can help your efforts and amplify your voice. And thank you so much again for taking the time.
Thank
Keep
you,
up the
Abby.
great work.
Thank you, Abby. I will. Thank you.